guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped and what I think is going to be a rather special video, because behind me is the very latest Aston Martin Vanquish S. This absolutely stunning car is mine for the day, and I thought you'd quite like to take a look round, have a really good look at the spec of this car. It's got some beautiful options on it, but then we need to take this car up the road because I think that's one of the best sounding cars ever made. 6-litre V12, it sounds completely off the charts. We'll take it up the road, find some tunnels and have some fun. So let's just take a look inside the boot and talk about a few of the options on this car. So you just pop that little button there and you can open the boot. So first thing, boot size-wise, I mean, this is a proper tourer. It's a relatively big boot. This you could get a good number of bags in here and go away for a weekend and have a really, really lovely time. And you'd even get all the shoes in for the missus. But the thing that I really like, and whether I can get this on camera or not, underneath this boot you can see, hopefully, the exposed carbon fibre weave. Just here, look, because the whole body shell of this car is carbon fibre. Okay, so it's all carbon fibre, but this car has a few very expensive options. So one of those options is the exterior extra carbon pack, and it's something like a £6,500 option, and it includes, if you have a look round, the kind of bonnet louvers are carbon, those side scuttles are carbon, there's exposed carbon on the roof, and actually that's a really nice detail. You can kind of see this exposed carbon roof and these lovely strakes to aid airflow over the roof of the car and into that rear spoiler. The other thing this car has, and you probably see it best from here, is these kind of green accents on the front splitter and down the side skirts. It's called apple tree green. So that accent pack around the outside, it's a £3,000 option. So just those two options are seriously expensive. However, it just tops the car off and makes it look absolutely beautiful. So here we are out on the open road in this stunning Aston Martin Vanquish S. I cannot describe to you how beautiful this interior is. So the options that kind of extend in here, we've got this beautiful quilted leather, and it extends onto the headlining and onto the seats and onto the door trim, and it just makes this look absolutely stunning. Even options like the speaker grills on the Bang & Olufsen sound system, they're normally silver in a Vanquish S, they've been spec'd as black in here. The S gets the Bang & Olufsen sound system as standard, by the way. It's something like a £5,000 option if you buy a normal Vanquish. So I'm just starting off in the normal drive automatic box. So this has got the same gearbox as the DB11, so a big improvement on the old Vanquish. I mean, the first Vanquishes, they looked amazing, but the gearbox wasn't very good at all. This gearbox, absolutely superb. You can drive it in full automatic if you wanted to. This is a big GT tourer, so if you wanted to do some touring, that's probably what you're going to drive it in. However, I'm not going to do that today. The other thing you need to do is you need to put the sports button on, which is just down here now. So basically, if you've got one of these, you drive it in sport mode all the time. The other thing that we need to have a quick chat about is the suspension settings in this car. It's got 3. I'm currently in the kind of comfort setting, so it soaks up all the bumps really nicely. If I push this little button on the steering wheel, then it goes into a sport suspension setting, little bit firmer, and then there is a track setting, which I'm not going to go to because it's just not suitable for roads really. It's for a nice smooth tarmac that you get on a motor circuit. The other thing to note while I'm kind of going through some of the controls is I've got the most fantastic 177 steering wheel. This is a £1,000 option, but you really want to go for this. Obviously it's got its kind of famous square shape, but what that does is it brings the edges in and it just makes the paddles much more achievable. You know, you kind of get hold of them much more easily, and it kind of encourages you to drive sort of quarter to and quarter past, and it just feels excellent, really excellent. And you can start to hear that growly V12. Oh man alive. So that's the steering wheel. Finally in here, the other thing worth noting is that obviously the center console looks really nice, but finally I've got a reasonably decent sat nav in here. Although the MMI still looks like the old Aston, so it's not brilliant, the sat nav itself is actually very good. And the other thing it does is it supports Apple CarPlay. So for those of you who absolutely berated my recent Range Rover Velar review because it didn't support Apple CarPlay, this one does.
Under the bonnet is the simply stunning naturally aspirated 6-litre V12, producing 595 bhp and 465 pounds-feet of torque, taking this super GT car from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and onto a top speed of 201 miles an hour.
So this is a biblically fast, massively powerful car, yet you can drive it along, and to be honest, apart from the fact you've got that behind you, and when you depress the throttle, something pretty amazing happens. At kind of slower normal driving speeds, it's not actually that intimidating to drive. It is intimidating because I know this car is worth nearly £240,000. I know it's intimidating because it's rear wheel drive. It's got a huge V12 engine kicking out oodles of horsepower, and I've got a lovely horsepower and torque meter on the dashboard reminding me just how much horsepower I'm chucking out. So the intimidation factors are there, but really on a day-to-day driving basis it's just very comfortable, and you can kind of understand why this would be such an amazing GT cruiser. Now it is probably worth noting at this point that if you drive around the sports exhaust, or the sports setting, that exhaust is just so outrageously raucous. It just puts a big smile on your face. I can imagine lots of people couldn't live with that all the time. Me, I've got the car for a day, that button staying on all day, and it's just brilliant. But on overrun and, oh man, the pops and the crackles and just the general loudness of the thing is just very special, and you can just... It's there all the time, and it's just waiting for you to kind of get on it and put your foot down. However, this car gathers speed at a rate of knots that is unearthly. Really, I mean, there's a digital speedo. To be quite frank, the actual analog speedo reading is completely useless. The graphics, the font of the speeds are so tiny, unless you had a pair of opera glasses, you're not going to see them. Amazing downshifts. This gearbox is a real corker. So let's take this car onto the nearest thing I have to a kind of French auto route or German autobahn in the short time I have the car. The A3. So you are up to speed very, very quickly. but I kind of wanted to bring it on here. I'm going to drop it into just normal drive. So it's going to go into automatic, it's going to go into top gear, and it's going to sit here really nicely and quietly. And if you wanted it mega quiet, you would obviously turn the sport mode off, and then it would just be in full cruise mode. And I guess that's kind of one of the things this car is aimed at. This is a long touring GT cruiser. There's a few things you need to think about. If you've got a wife and 2 kids, forget taking the kids, because there's no way they're going to fit in the back. These seats, for me, are a complete joke. They are just storage more than anything. There's no way anybody with legs is going to sit in the back. Now then, let's have a chat about what's under the bonnet of this car. I think this is perhaps one of the last normally aspirated V12 engines we will ever see. I mean, if you saw my midweek 180 a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about the UK government announcing that they were going to ban the sale of petrol and diesel cars from 2040, but we're seeing this huge move towards turbocharging and hybrid power, and I just can't see new cars coming to market that are going to use naturally aspirated engines like the one we've got here. And it is such a shame, because as a petrol head, it's such a beautiful, beautiful noise. I mean, the one thing that frustrates me about videos on YouTube or anywhere is you will never transfer the noise that is going into my ears through the cameras and out of your speakers. It just doesn't happen. You cannot. It's just not just an auditory noise, it's a visceral one. It goes into your ear, it goes into your chest, and it's just amazing. And it's such a shame. And I think that, you know, I am sat in the last of its kind. You might be thinking, I've got a Vanquish S for the day, why am I coming on a dual carriageway? How boring's that? Well, for those of you who know the A3, the reason I've come on this is because there is the most excellent hindhead tunnel. And what better way to try and get the auditory pleasure of a naturally aspirated V12 over to you guys than take it through a big tunnel. Here we go. I might just crank that window down a little bit for you there, and we'll just drop it down a cog or two, into 4th, into 3rd. See? Now you've got to say, that sounds good. I have wanted to do this in an Aston Martin for a very, very long time. And the great thing is all of that is within the speed limit. This thing is on another level, and I have to say, I can imagine the Vanquish S Volante, the convertible version of this. Wow, that must be amazing, but yeah, I could just go in and out of this tunnel for the rest of my life. There you go. Oh, that was a big bucket list item for me, driving a naturally aspirated V12 through a tunnel. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Go on then. Are there any things that I don't like about the Aston Martin Vanquish S? It's very difficult not to like this car. It's very, very beautiful. However, there are a couple of things that if I was spending 220 to 240,000 pounds on a car, I would want a little bit different. I'd want a better infotainment system. The one out of the DB11 is brilliant, but that's out of a Mercedes, so I'd have that. It's much better than something like a Vantage. The one in the Vantage is pretty poor, so I'd want a different infotainment system. I want slightly bigger typeface on my Speedo. That's being really picky because I've got a digital Speedo. What else? Nope, I can't think of anything else. Oh, apart from the fact, if it was cheaper, I might be able to buy one. But yeah, I can't think of many things I don't like about the car. In fact, what I've done is I've gone up the A3, turned round on the roundabout and come back down again, and guess where we are now? We're in the tunnel again. So let's just crank the window open, grab a paddle, drop it down a couple, into third, into second. Yeah, I guess my problem would be, if I owned one of these, is I'd basically spend all day accelerating in a tunnel. And I know it's incredibly immature, but the great thing is, it's completely legal. And I'm having more fun with my clothes on than I've ever had before. Well guys, I haven't done this for a while, but there's only one thing for it, and that's to take the Vanquish S up the Petrol hill climb. And I've cracked the window open just a little bit so you can hear this glorious V12 on song as we do one of my favourite little bits of twisty road. Crack down into second. You only really need second coming up here. And it's just intoxicating, that noise. Oh, wow. I bought the V12 Vanquish S Roadster up there. It was a bit of a damp day and it frightened the life out of me, to be honest. This thing inspires quite a lot of confidence. So, what are my final impressions of this car? Well, I first saw this particular car when I drove the DB11 to Bewley with Aston Martin Chichester. It was one of the cars in the convoy. And I followed it, and it was just so biblically loud. I thought to myself, I have to get behind the wheel of that car. And it's taken a while just to kind of tie things up logistically. But I have to say a huge thank you to James at Aston Martin Chichester for letting me play with the car for a day. They're just such a cool guy. He took me out in the car beforehand and ran me through some of it, just so I could really get the best out of my time in the car. So a massive thank you to Aston Martin Chichester for lending me the car. But my impressions of the car are, it is just a stunning, stunning thing. That V12 is about as beautiful a noise as you could possibly imagine. It really, really is intoxicating. And I mentioned it already, it's a dying breed, and I find that so, so sad. But from the outside, I think this car's one of the most beautiful cars on the road. And inside, absolutely stunning. Just look at it, what a place to be. I can only imagine how beautiful it must be to go on a long road trip in a car like this. But yeah, very, very much like it. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that video. I know I get asked lots of times, do more affordable cars. I have to say, this for me was a completely selfish thing. I desperately wanted to drive a Vanquish S. I know many of you will never get the opportunity to drive a car like this, and I just wanted to take you along for the ride, and hopefully you've got a smidgen, an inkling of just how amazing it is to drive a car like this. So anyway guys, I'm going to draw the video to a close. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have done so, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next video guys, but you take care, drive safe. I might just give it a few more, down into third, and then, oh baby!